Yo, 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 yo. Mic check 1 2 1 2. Mic check 1 2 1 2.
Testing.
Mic check one.
Testing.
I think. Let me see.
Testing.
There you go. Tap yours. Tap it. Yours is not on. Yours is muted. Looks like. Hold on. Tap it again. Tap it. Say something. Fuck. Say something.
Testing. Oh, there it goes.
Nah, he was number 4. I was trying to figure out which mic.
Yeah, because we got, that's 1 2 3 4. That's number 1 right there.
That's number 1.
Yeah. Tell them to say.
Yo. No, this 3 4. Okay, so yeah, 1 2 3. All right. I thought it was the other. I thought it was 1 2 3 4. Okay. Yo. All right. All right. Hey, yeah, everything going.
Okay. You got the YouTube popping.
Yep. YouTube, Zoom. Now, wait, I thought it was Facebook. That's the one.
Facebook, YouTube. Stream out in you. You got Facebook. You didn't click Facebook when you turn it on?
Oh, yeah. Right. Oh, yeah, we good to go. All right, so was the brother, the doctor gonna come on?
He said he's coming down.
Oh, he gonna come in studio?
That's what he said, yeah.
Okay. All right, well, while we waiting on him then, I want to introduce everybody to Raheem, brother from New Jersey. You know, he came to Chicago about, what's there, a year?
I've been here about 2 years.
About 2 years ago. And he on the search trying to figure out what a black man in the community that's doing something, you know what I mean? Whether it's community cleanups or being out in front of the youth and being active.
Right.
And so, you know, I connected with him through AREWA with the district council. And so I've been, you know, working with him, going out throughout the community, showing them different spots and connecting them with guys, you know, that I think need to be a part of something that he's trying to put together or will at least would like to see. So I wanted to bring him down to the show so we could, you know what I'm saying, he could meet Steve, you know what I mean, but also so we can have a conversation focused on, you know, some of these topics, what he feel missing in the community. So, you know, while we waiting on the doctor, the MD to get here, you know, we can go ahead and bring Brother Raheem on and have him talk a little bit about himself and ultimately what he want to see.
Right.
So you, bro. Yes, sir. Tell the folks a little bit about yourself.
I'm 49. I turned 49 this month. May. I've lived a long time according to as far as what I was supposed to, how long I was supposed to live. You know, usually guys that are 19 or 20, you know, growing up in the party gangs and stuff like that, usually they die early. And so every time I look at myself today at 49, I'm shocked a little bit. But I always realize that when God allows you to reach a certain age, it's your duty to teach what you learned, you know, what he allowed you to come from. And so it's just been my mission ever since I could remember to make sure that before I leave this earth, you know, I let not just people in general, but especially my own, because, you know, my mother raised me to love my own people. So to let you little black children and adults as well know that we're more than just some people here. You know, we got too much, our history is too rich. You know, our struggle is too deep to just sit here and just allow ourselves to just go off into the wind, you know. So that's basically me. I've done time in jail a little bit. You know, went through my bumps and bruises as a teenager. But that's pretty much it. You know, I'm really not too complicated or open book. You know, I got struggles like every other man has struggles, and then you try to come from up out of them and become better, you know. So that's just basically who I am.
Yes, sir. So you grew up on the East Coast in Jersey?
Yeah,
or-
I was born in New Brunswick, New Jersey. I moved to Florida in 1990. Became a man down there. I was 14 years old then. Ended up going to prison when I was 20.
Okay.
I didn't get out till I was 35. And when I got out, I realized that a lot's changed. You know, all this technology and computer stuff, you know what I'm saying?
You said you went in at 20 and got out at
I
30?
got out at 35.
35. Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, so
Dang.
2011,
Yeah.
you know, and a lot of stuff changed. You know, well, as far as especially, you know, Black people, we weren't together no more. Technology seemed to zombify us a little bit.
Yeah.
So we really don't know each other. You know, I know when I grew up in the 90s, you know, there was none of this. So we went outside to jump rope together. You know,
Right.
we went outside to play hopscotch and hide and seek, you know, because we needed each other.
Right.
Now, you know, this technology seems to take us away from each other. We're becoming more strangers,
Yeah.
more zombified.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's the last thing we need is to go further and further away from each other. You know,
Mhm.
I always think the further we go into the future, the more we need each other.
No, absolutely.
You know, so it's
Yeah.
it just scares me a little bit. That's all.
Yeah.
You know, it scares me. Not a little bit, a lot, because you know, I don't sleep too much thinking about this stuff. You know, I'm up all the time thinking about. I see the little Black girls and Black boys walking down the street in the community, and I'm like, you know, this is the future.
Right.
So how are we in our 40s growing up, allowing them to grow into a world to where they can't see safety? You know what I mean? Or better representations of men, you know, or women. You know, so that's all.
Let me ask you, you got kids?
No, I don't have no kids.
You know, I don't think God made me see that because I love all. So I thought that if I ever had a child, I'd probably be walking around here crazy. You know, I mean, I always say, don't give me those words. And I might be, you be going back for a while. I might get all the trees and everything, watching those trees. And you got to though. Yeah. The boys do though. You know, that's another thing they don't talk about. They don't talk about boys being as vulnerable to harm as girls, and they are. Boys are, boys are more, emotionally resilient too. But our emotion is different because we're not allowed to show it. So when we're harmed and we go through things, we'll bother it. But that's not what the man is supposed to do. So usually when the man snaps, or he does something that's outside of his body, it's usually trash. You know, like you'll look at him like, whoa, you know what I mean? What happened to all that? You know, but they don't really be about that. They be about all the other stuff. Like, you know, women, you know, it's different, but they'll cry in the show. They'll let that stuff out. You know what I mean? I know we tell women to do stuff all the time, but, you know, a woman is a woman, so she's gonna let it go. That's a great relief that sometimes. But then, I wish we would release that too. I wish we would try to talk to each other more. You know, that's okay. It's okay for me, it makes you strong. Yeah. How you find your way over here to Chicago? Wow, we coming to Chicago since I was 19 years old. So it's always been like a second home. I come back and forth from Chicago to Florida. So all of my family lives in Florida. Oh, yeah? No family. So far, Florida, they're in Tampa right now.
DeAndre, he's echoing. I can't hear him.
Can't hear me? She said you're echoing. I'm echoing. Huh. And I don't, how about me, Miss Jacobs?
I can hear you, but he was like echoing.
Can you hear us now? Can you hear me now?
I hear you, but not him. I can hear him, but he's echoing.
Okay. All right, I just turned his mic off. Try to see if he's gonna speak now. See if he does it again. Can you hear me?
Speak up.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I hear you now.
Man, all that time, man, I ain't even go live, man. I'm I'm wondering, like, all right. So look, the quick and dirty of it is, we got Brother Raheem here from New Jersey that has come to Chicago. He said, you know, he's familiar with Chicago, been here a couple years, since he was 19. And, you know, he was just giving a little bit about his background. Ultimately, he comes to Chicago, you know, and since he's planted his feet down here, he's looking around the community and he doesn't see what he saw in the 90s, which was a lot of unity, especially amongst males. And so he's looking for opportunities to connect with men that are actually doing something in the community, those that are willing to come together, you know, through the cleanup, make sure they're good stewards of their community, make sure they are setting good examples for the youth. And ultimately, he was connected with me through RAWA with the district council. So he emailed me, I reached back, he told me what the idea was and what his goals are. So I come in and I'm like, all right, bet I'm gonna put you in tune with some cats that I know that's doing work. And so ultimately, you know, with me thinking about the show being a day, I'm gonna bring you on over here to Northwest Office Council and give you the mic so we can talk a little bit about some of those things that you see in the community, what you're trying to change, and we can go ahead and, you know, keep building out this idea. One of the things I told them is that in July, you know, maybe the second week of July, if it comes to it, could even be the first week if it works out. I was trying to get at least 12 guys. That's a low number, you know what I mean? But at minimum, it's a good starting point because there's way more than 12 men that I know in the community that's doing something, but everybody be busy though. So my goal is to at least try to get these 12 together, you know, hour and a half where we could fellowship in politics and then, you know, talk about doing something together and what that might look like. So, you know, that's one of the things that I'm working on currently with Raheem. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Can you hear me, Mr. Jacob?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, Raheem, let me ask this. I might have missed it. You lived in Chicago prior to this?
Yeah, I was coming to Chicago.
Okay.
Yeah, so I come back and forth. Back and forth.
I got you. Where'd you live? West side, south side?
South side, west side. I started off with the south side.
Okay.
This is my first time living out west. Last year. I've been out here for about 6 years. Yeah, I just come outside. You know, out south. The youngins out south are a little bit different.
Oh, yeah?
So the poor out there come. So you don't really have time to sit there. Well, you do have time. You always have time, but trying to get through to those youngins is a little bit more difficult because of what they're around. When you come out west, still troublesome, but it's not as wide. So the youngins here can get a little, you can actually reach them a little bit more because they don't have to deal with so much gang stuff, so much territory. They still do it out here, but if you live in both areas, you're a little different.
Right. So they still standing on it, huh?
Yeah.
So to say, no sound. Huh? No sound.
Should be coming out of here.
Well, I don't know.
That's the thing. Let's say yours.
It's a good point that you make. That because I still think they do gang bang, but I don't know about you, but I tell them here, young people, throwing them up, representing them.
Well, no, not like we did in tonight. You know, they have their own forms of their truth and what they believe in. But it's still like at the end of the day, you know, people end up dying. So, you know, they still.
Right.
But it's
How many years do you 15? Where were you at?
A little bit all the Pontiac, a little bit.
Oh shit, that's why you here.
Yeah, I was Galesburg, really.
I'm gonna ask you some questions, because there are some people that I know that have been in for a long time. You might know these names. If you ever heard of a guy named Bridgeborn, he was supposed to be the I-55 killer, and he been in there for about 38, 40 years.
I decided, I got locked up so young. My mother, she was raised Muslim. So she was part of Black Panther movement, the Nation of Islam came in the 70s. And so that's why I get my love for my people. So I was a big, me and my next birthday, midnight too, so I always looked up to him and that, So, studying him, when I got locked up, I told myself, I said, well, I can do exactly what you do. He said, you can treat it like it's the penitentiary, and you have no hope, or you can treat it like a college. And so I decided to treat it like a college. Got to my book, I stayed away from the guys, like all the gang things. Then I said, if I'm gonna do this, I might as well make sure when I leave here that I got something to give back to the community, which is the things that I know or what I can share. So that's been my mission for the last 20, 30 years.
The reason I was presenting those names, because many of these guys, we go on and talk about Hoover, we go on and talk about Jeff Ford, and many of these guys that are looked upon as leaders still without power, other than where they stand. And I wanted to get your take on it, if you have run across any of them, because I know many of guys that I know that have did 10, 20, some odd years, they run across those guys.
Yeah, I run across the few. I don't want to say the name, but yeah, I run across the little guys.
Are you working?
Right now I'm on disability. Got Crohn's disease. So they helped me. They moved me into a part-time job. So that's why I've been with it. So right now I've been trying to find work on the side, but the Crohn's disease is kind of difficult. They want to make a certain amount on disability. Money that you can't really live off of. But I'm okay. So God's been good. I'm healthy. So I'm eating right. So I'm all right. I just got to leave this earth, letting these kids know, and us know that we're more than what they say we are. Of course, I just need us to see that. But I need the Black men to like board, not just walk around. We're 40, 50, so we're like the lion with the name. We're supposed to be royal. You can't let those young lions outboard the old.
All right. So you can't, but at the same time, though, the old lion get old for a reason, man. He in the back of the pack now. The young one be at front. Well, no, that's how wolves go. I don't know how lions go. Yeah, maybe lions stay up front. Yeah. Young wolves in the front though.
No, I'm gonna tell you, lions gonna play. They'll eat them little lions up. Just if they spit, they ain't gonna follow the pecking order. The mother lion will try to defend it. If the male will support, sheep or the pack, you give it.
Because you can't be afraid, like I was telling you before.
Is the alpha male.
We create.
Walter was saying that.
How's it going, everyone? Is the alpha male.
Right.
Yeah, there's beta males and there's alpha males.
For sure. But it's funny that you say that because from the streets to the politics of it all, look at what's going on in the world. We doing military strikes in countries that are supposedly a threat. Everybody been talking the same game for 40 years. I got, I will. I got, I will. You know? So,
A threat for America is like anything that's from whatever system that they're trying to attack the world with. So it's not really, I mean, you do have threats out there against the country, but it's not just like this. America's not being threatened because they haven't done it. You know what I mean? America knows what it's done, but they still have to, like the strike that they just did. They still have to do that because in order for them to keep their position, you got to show proof. You can't keep power without being somewhat true. So Europeans have been conquerors since what? Greece, Rome, everywhere they go, they conquer. And they go through barbaric principles in order to do it. And in order to keep it, you got to keep doing barbaric things. So that's the way they've been working for thousands of years.
well, I have to say this. You know, when you said you got to tell the young guys, young people, you know, this, we are not who they say we are. Well, it's all come from a lie, you know. And if you say a lie long enough and as many times it's been said, you begin to believe it. Even the person that knows it's a lie.
I don't know what's happening.
You know. So that in itself, you know, it becomes a program. Right.
Yeah, I think we got light to the second war of Iraq. Remember they were saying that he had weapons of mass some kind of destruction, or the no?
Got the yellow cake.
Right. And then when they went in, they found out.
Man, they do it to us all the time, man. I was just having this conversation last night about how our government forces us into compliance, you know, and they really want to see how much they can actually do before people be like, all right, man, I feel like y'all doing us kind of dirty. But what they found is that people continue to blindly follow them no matter what they say. For example, I wanted to go to the military, and I wanted to go into PSYOP, right? Psychological operations. I wanted to go into PSYOP for this very reason. If we think and believe that our government does not falsely create propaganda so that the American people can get behind their bullshit, then we crazy. We got a whole psychological division that does that to other countries, but we be fool enough to believe that they don't do that to us. I wanted to go for that very purpose. I wanted to learn these manipulation tactics, this propaganda.
You know that. You remember the children of Israel? You remember how when they were asking for food, and then the prophet went to them and said, well, if you want this king like all the other countries around got you, so they want to be like everybody else. So but this king is going to do what? He's going to use your children. So he's going to destroy your wives. He told them all the things that they were going to do, and they still want it. And then you ask why? Because it's hard for people to just sit there and to be a leader of themselves. To be a leader of a community. Right? So they're always going to look for laws and people telling them what to do as a community, so that way they themselves have orders established. Because as a community, they don't want to establish the orders themselves. Because then the devil comes in and brings confusion. Who's the leader? Who's going to be doing this? We can't just, as a community, just say, you know what, this is what we're doing, this is the way it is, and that's it. You have to have somebody telling us what to do.
Yeah, you know, that's a natural social thing.
Yeah.
You know, and learning in psychology, you know, I learned that when you come together, you automatically form a group. If it's 2 people, that's a group. If it's 3 people, right? Within that group structure, there has to be some type of order. So somebody is going to whether by choice or by force, step up naturally.
Right.
And so that is the way that we are designed.
Now, what is that leader gonna be telling them?
Right.
That,
Yeah, man, that's the difference between, whether you have a good leader or somebody that just want to lead people to their downfall.
right. So a leader that leads you to your downfall, if he has 50,000 people following him, some of them have to have the sense to know that, hold up, this guy is misleading.
Right.
But you don't have people, you have people who think.
Right.
You have to figure out why is that. Why did you stay knowing that this person is misleading? What is inside of you that makes you want to stay here?
Right.
So then that becomes person. That becomes the individual.
Right.
You have to ask yourself, what is it that's making me want to follow this God that I'm constantly seeing every day?
Mm-hmm.
Or I come out my home and trash is on the ground all the time.
Mm-hmm.
What is it with black men that when we walk down the street, instead of seeing the beauty in ourselves, we challenge each other?
Right.
That's what we got to ask.
Because it's a lot to do with knowing better. You know better, you do better.
Exactly. Information is key. But if you're walking outside of your house and no information is out there, because you hear what that you see on TV is a cartoon,
Right.
but when we walk outside the house, we hear what was that guy standing on the corner who's selling that beef.
Right. So I'm trying to, I say you say you'll be 49?
I'm 49 now.
49 now. All right. So so you're Gen Xer. I blame Gen X.
Exactly.
I'm trying to figure out, I always say this, I'm like, because I think about my mom, right? My mom is 55. My mom be 55. Yeah, she is 55. And then, and so she fall right within the age range. And I always be like, man, where y'all was at in the movement? Like, what happened? How, after the 60s and everything, that was a big window down. And again, I know, drugs,
No,
mass incarceration.
we were the recipients of the movement. Because we received the things that were supposed to be due to us after the movement. Like, I didn't realize when I was in grammar school in the 70s, 71, the things we were doing was based on civil rights movement. Like, we had Black History class.
Right.
I mean, nobody had Black History classes unless it was a private school. We were able to sing, lift every voice and sing. Right. We did that every morning. We thought that was just what we were supposed to do. We didn't know it was because there was a mandate to teach Black kids their history. But many of the things, housing was supposed to be, supported to help and support Black people, which that really wasn't true. Right. It was just a warehouse scenario. We didn't realize that we were supposed to be the recipients. And I told someone this today when we was at the Baha'i Temple. I said, one of the things that they don't realize, that this one guy was like, well, I don't understand how people see racism. How do people see this? Well, you don't know that you're being treated. I mean, I saw racism at the age of 7, 8 years old. Because I literally calculated. I knew, I remember the year. I said, man, all this racism is going to disappear when all these old people that were born at the beginning of the century, 1900s, die out because they were too close to it, And I'm thinking, okay, they'll be all 100 years old in the year 2000, and they'll all be gone, and racism goes away. This is 7, 8-year-old thinking, doing math. This is 1970, 30 more years, they'll be gone, and then people can have a fresh start with their thinking. Well, being a 7, 8-year-old, I didn't realize racism isn't something that's just based on the lineage and age. It's based on perception and being taught. It's being taught like a book, like a religion. So that being said, me being naive, did all of that calculating, and here it is, 2000, been past 25 years, but I mean, true enough, I understood it more by the time I was 15 that it ain't based on it. And yeah, Yeah, DeAndre said he only experienced racism 3 times in his life. Yeah, maybe that's true to what you can recall.
Right.
But sometimes you will never recall it because you never go back to figure it out.
I mean, it's microaggressions, but I mean, I'm talking about flat out only one time that I can remember, right? Which was a family reunion in Rolling Meadows, where some white people, you know, dressed as, they weren't dressed as anything, but, you know, they definitely had that skinhead vibe about them, you know, called us niggas. And my cousin and us rushed they road, and we put hands and puts on.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then in the same area where we were trying to do our picnic for the reunion, you know, they had all types of swastikas and nigga this and nigga that all over the tables, the benches and stuff. You know what I mean? Other times it's just, you know, more or less microaggressions. You know what I mean? Or even when you look at, because I was talking about the system being more racist than anything. You know, you look at it and you look at, you know, promotions and all those type of things at the job, and, you know. So
yeah, there you go. There you go. And I can almost guarantee at that job, you just didn't want to realize it, or you didn't realize it, or they didn't make it prevalent enough. It was going on because, yeah,
right.
institutional.
Oh, well, yeah, that was my last time working a job for a long time. That was my first job. Well, no, would have been my second job. I worked for Nestle. You know, Edie's Ice Cream at first. Nestle, which is a major corporation, bought us out. And despite whether it was me who had a degree, graduated with honors at the time, and I wanted to be in leadership, and instead of them hiring from within, they went to other colleges and found the most white bread people you could ever find and brought them in and taught them all the stuff I already knew, you know, instead of elevating me. And additionally, they had another black man who was the manager with Pepsi to come over. And instead of continuing him being a manager, because it wasn't under the lateral move, they had him go on the truck. And then had him do the truck for about 6 or 7 years before they finally elevated. And then when they elevated him, they sent him to a white bread state like Iowa, somewhere like that. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I worked there for 7.5, 8 years, and that was my longest job ever. And I never worked another job as long as that again because of that simple lesson. You know what I mean? Like, you ain't gotta, they ain't gotta do me like that more than for one time to show me what it is. You know what I mean? Fact. Fact.
They've been doing that like for thousands. White folks love to benefit off of black people's kids. They would go crazy if we benefit from them off this.
Right.
They've never liked it.
And so when we was talking today at the Temple, you know, having conversations about race and everything, that's what I said. I said, man, white people need to give us the resources that they stole from us to get out of our way.
Notice, what's that word?
Restitution, reparation.
Reparation. Now, you notice when you say that word, how it drives them crazy? Because they know they would have to do a bunch of red lines.
Right.
They would have to start mapping out, marking out black people's areas. Then they would have to start releasing these buildings that these white people own, and they just let sit there in the case, stop progress coming out of the community. So now black businessmen would be able to come in and have first kids on the building. Start creating prosperity. Once you got more prosperity, you got what? Less crime.
Right.
Okay, so now what's going to happen to the black community? It's going to start profiting.
They could do it. They do it right after the Civil War. They gave reparations to the slave owners because they were without their slaves. So they said, we got to get you on your feet. We got to give you money so that you can prosper.
Yeah.
So if they found, and they said, I don't know, it wasn't a lot. They said about 100 or 1,000 of them. They did that.
Two ways to do that. Once black people are able to start dictating their finances and backing into their kids, allowing us to have our community, will surpass them when it comes to finance. Our neighborhoods will start growing bigger. We're a worldly people. We've always been a worldly people. If you look at Africa and you see the map of Africa, if you see the lines that are drawn for her, what does she look like? She looks like a mother suckling her children. all kinds of people do what? Take African resources from
Yeah.
all over the world to keep the what? The world, yeah, so the black people are we're sought Africa wherever we go. Meaning all the knowledge that we have, the spiritual strength that we have, we take that wherever we go. So whatever neighborhood we get to and allow to get our goods.
I just found out there are 100,000 Africans in China.
Where? China?
In China, yeah. In Shanxi province. Yeah, mainland China.
Man,
But I mean, it is what it is.
That's like dollars. That's a real thing.
Yeah, but the problem with it is, it's a real thing, but we don't use it as real as we need to.
They won't, that's like 40. That's why you ever see how the Arabs, I see all those stores that they have enough food, they're mining 40. They're coming into the black neighborhood, taking the oil out of the neighborhood and putting it into their community. That's what we are. We're 40. The only reason why white folks don't have Arabs in their neighborhood because they don't trust. Yeah, you can't be bombing Pakistan and then talking about you and I did for each other that game.
Selling us
Yeah,
food.
right, you're important because of food. And we just got finished, you know, so they send us to the black neighborhood. We'll let you make your money there.
Half at least.
Yeah, but also
Right.
to the point of Malcolm X though, because like I said, at was one point where I used to listen to I Have a Dream every year. Now I listen to the Ballad of Bullet every year. You know what I mean? And within that, we were talking about black nationalism and the fact that we need to be controlling our own education system, controlling our own economics. You know what I mean? We needed those things, and he talked about this in 68, 66, or 69, one of them, somewhere in there. And he Ballad of the Bullet. Yeah.
Malcolm died for King died in 68.
Okay, so 63 then.
who's the one that killed Malcolm King or Malcolm X?
Phil, say that again.
Who killed Malcolm X?
He was a black man, though.
The federal government killed him, just like they killed a lot of
He
them.
was a black man.
The CIA set all that up.
You saying who pulled the trigger, or you saying who
Yeah,
wanted,
black man
who
did,
wanted
for
him
sure.
dead?
One
Was it?
of his own people.
That's right. He got killed by another black man. One thing about the devil is not racist. So he'll use whoever he can to destroy something. Black, white, Asian,
Right.
it don't matter. So
Right.
that's all he was working for, was for the devil. You know,
Yeah. The devil is not racist, but he understands how to use it.
he knows how to use it.
My
That's
bad.
right.
So the Ballad
So
of
they
Bullet
working.
64. And like I say, he spoke to what's going on right now. Just because we have, such a lack of collaboration amongst ourselves, that the other groups can come right on in and set up commerce
Right.
and sell us anything.
And sell us anything, take advantage of the prices, raise the prices on us, and instead of us sitting there saying, you know what, then we're not going to support your store.
Facts.
We still go in
Oh,
and we start
man.
buying.
Oh man, they disrespect us.
They're racist. A lot of them, some of them are more racist than white folks.
They treat our women like sluts.
Treat them, that's right. You see the way they have our sisters parked up inside of their
Come on,
stuff
man.
all the time?
Come on, man.
The white men and the Arabs have always had an infatuation for black women.
And they should.
Without
You know what I
question.
mean?
Without question.
Black women is the holy grail of the women.
Without question. Without question. But they've
Yeah,
always had
but-
that. It's us who they don't like, bro.
But having an affection and treating people bad is two different things. They don't have that kind of affection.
No, there's no love there.
Oh no, it's all love. It's all love.
No, there's
Because
never.
I
there's no love.
was told by an Arab that he said to me, he says, we cannot allow our women to be soiled. We
Right,
have to keep them pure.
right.
So we have to find someone to soil
Right,
outside of our own women.
right. And you see, and they pay our women a few dollars to piss and shit all over them.
Well,
And white women too, but still.
but we allow it.
What
The
about
men
Kelly?
allowed it.
Kelly says on the women.
We
Wait.
want to check your background.
Wait, say it again?
R. Kelly was peeing on women too.
It was. Hey man. Hey, that's different.
What do you mean it's
R. Kelly.
R. Kelly, oh.
R. Kelly was different, man.
So was the president.
That's why I
This
say
big
that
black football player or basketball player, baseball player with this 18 or 19-year-old white girl.
Oh, Shannon Sharp,
Yeah.
Uncle Shay Shay.
yeah, yep.
Oh yeah,
What
no,
was
he a
that?
fool. You don't mess with no. Now he should have known. Now he gonna mess with a white woman. Go get him an old white woman, not a young white woman. That woman gonna cost him a few dollars. She already cost him a few dollars. She gonna cost him a few more when that thing go to court.
She sure is.
What about that older guy that was with the young girl, that coach from the Patriots? Same thing.
I know they were
Belichick.
saying on the radio, she said she wanted her a big black man.
You know,
And
she
now,
said big black baby.
oh, okay, well, it was something real big black.
Yeah. Hey yo. Hey yo.
Yeah, well, let's do this, y'all. Let's give my man an opportunity to come on. He's on the Zoom. And this is
Works.
Dr. Marcus Rushing. Are you there, doctor?
Yes, sir, I am. I've been just sitting here enjoying the conversation. I really appreciate it. It's an honor to be on your show, sir.
All right, all right. We gotta get it tuned so everybody, y'all all hear, because we gotta hear hear what he's talking about also.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Let us know if you can or cannot. All right, YouTube looks good.
Hello, Arnold.
Hey, Walter,
How are you?
doing okay?
Hey.
Happy Father's Day.
Maybe I took that over there. All right, whenever you're ready, doctor.
Okay.
Formally introduce yourself. Maybe I have not
You're probably in a space bar.
properly. Yeah, maybe I should.
Yeah,
All right,
you
well,
keep-
I'll go ahead myself. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, perfect. I'll keep it quick. So my name is Dr. Marcus Rushing, born and raised West Side Chicago. Grew up right on Central Potomac and Austin community. Went to Ella Flagg Young High School at Lane Tech. Attended University of Chicago, University of Illinois, and then sort of my trajectory sort of changed a little bit when I ran into a multi-billion-dollar bully by the name of Northwestern. There's a current. There are basically 2 federal court cases and 4 cases in the state level that sort of outline what I'm going to attempt to summarize in the next 30 seconds. But basically, my story is that I stood up to the powers that be, spoke a truth, and then they retaliated. The reason that they retaliated is because they felt that they thought that I was alone and that I didn't have a community. But I ended up starting an organization called Equal Right to Dream. You can look it up, www.equalright and then the number 2 and then dream.com, or you can go straight to my website, which is www.marcusrushingmd.com, and it'll bring you to all those endeavors. But basically, I reported something that happened to a Black patient at the hands of a white physician while I was an employee at Northwestern as a physician. And I figured that this is a liberal institution, they're going to do the right thing. Little did I know that these folks, they turned against me. It would be the equivalent of you calling the cops because somebody breaking in and then they come and take your butt to jail, sort of a deal. They turned against me and sort of tried to make. Go ahead. I'm sorry about that.
So I said, because you're Black. Of course they're going to, if there was you call the cops to help some white people, they're going to grab you.
They're going to grab you.
Hey,
right.
Doctor.
Yes, sir.
Can you put your links in the chat?
Yeah, that's a great idea. Why don't I do that? If that's okay with you.
Doctors.
Yeah, let me do that. That's a great idea.
Jesus Christ, man. Why you want to go to school that much?
Yeesh. Listen to him talking.
Yeesh. Yeah.
Before you go into that a little bit more, because we're gonna give you the whole next hour. Explain your position in the hospital and your professional background again, just to make sure.
Absolutely. So my let me you know it's hard for me to multitask. I'm typing this little thing. So it's in the group. I put
Thank you.
2 links, but the MarcusRussianMD.com, because if you go to that link, then you can get access to all the other ones. Let me explain a little bit about my professional background. So there are a few physicians like me. So I'm trained in family medicine, something called pathology. I'm board certified in something called occupational and environmental medicine, right? Not most docs just have one specialty. Beyond that, I have I'm Auburn dissertation in a PhD program. So I did a doctoral study research down in the cornfields in Urbana-Champaign. My professional, I guess there's one more thing too. I'm also a law student, right? And so when you would think that if a company hires you, they want to hire smart people. But when you get in there and then and they see that you're a smart black man, then they start to view you as a threat, because then they say, well, we can't do them anyway. So that's a little bit of my professional background. So what sorts of things am I trained to do? Because those are a lot of big words, right? But what does it really mean? So basically, the field that I'm in, I intersect heavily with medicine and the law. I'm basically where I guess I'm at the intersection where medicine and law interact. So I do a lot with injuries, whether they occur in the workplace, whether someone's trying to get a disability assessment. So I do a lot of medical legal writing and advocacy based on that. So did that answer your question from a professional sort of a background? Like, does that give you a little piece of that?
Absolutely.
All
I
right.
mean, is that clear to everyone?
Mhm.
And I'm open to questions. Any questions? If I ain't making sense, feel free to ask. I'm happy to clarify. And
I got 2 questions.
yes, sir.
Did you write a book?
So that's a good question, and the answer is yes. I have written a book. It's unpublished right now because I'm waiting on sort of the court, the legal matters to resolve themselves, at least in the federal case, and then it's going to be released. Obviously, you gotta do due diligence to protect evidence and the integrity of that evidence. So, only portions of what has occurred has been released and is what's made public. Even what's on the website is basically just for you to understand what happened. And I'm gonna summarize real simply what happened because it's wrong on all sorts of levels, from a legal level, a policy level, an ethical level, and a moral level. The things that have happened to me should not have occurred.
How about medical malpractice?
What about it?
Have anyone reached out to you or have questions that they may have a medical malpractice case, or just to get your...
Absolutely. So as from a physician standpoint, I'm board certified, can handle anything from that standpoint. From a legal standpoint, I'm in law school, so I can't give like legal advice. I can't take on like a personal injury case in court unless it were my own. I can do that like pro se, but I basically have to have the guidance of I have to work under the auspices of an attorney. But what I do, but I did get a lot of consults regarding medical malpractice. It's typically a law firm that will ask me to write a medical opinion, right? And they really appreciate it when it comes from me, because obviously have a little bit of legal background, and then and my work predominantly deals with those who've been injured. So to answer your question, yes.
So one would simply have to reach out to you, and then maybe you work or, like you say, provide medical consultation to an attorney that could represent a client, right?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. And then my information out is like, yeah.
You have to repeat that.
Yeah.
You're breaking up on your end. Could you repeat?
So, Mr. Arnold was asked if I would be able to consult regarding personal injury, medical malpractice, things of that. That's basically tort law. What I was explaining is that from a medical standpoint, I can. From a legal standpoint, the extent of my participation would be drafting a brief or a report.
What happened?
Ms. Jacobs cut him off.
No, I don't think Ms. Jacobs. I think he cut off his own end.
Hello, Ms. Jacobs. Go ahead.
Now, why you say that, Donnie?
I know that'll get your attention.
No, there it is. He's back. Go ahead, Doc. You were saying?
Okay. So did I address the question, Mr. Arnold?
Yeah, we kind of got the gist of it. You collaborate or consult with an attorney who you give an opinion and they take it from there.
We are Marie.
Dr. Russian, would you explain to them about what can you explain to the audience about what was said?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes. Let me get to that. And so that there are no words confused, I'm gonna read it slowly, and I don't want it to get misinterpreted. So I'm gonna go ahead and just read it verbatim. So basically, let me give you the appropriate context. When I reported what happened regarding the Black patient, Northwestern basically had some choice words for me. Here are some of the choice words. They basically put a number of threats in my performance evaluations. Obviously, I've taken one of those and put it on my website. It's pretty public knowledge to folks who know about this thing, but let me read it to you guys. It reads the following: that a big part of your character is seeking truth, and it may feel disingenuous to endorse anything that you disagree with, but it will bite you in the ass. They put a curse word in there. If you don't learn to concede to the group, even if they are wrong, you can be completely right, and it won't matter if people have already turned against you. Hold it, it's not done. It's a dangerous world for a Black man, and you can't afford to make it more dangerous for yourself by being unable to let things go. What they wanted me to do was to not pursue it any further. Obviously, I continue to pursue it and put it in court, and it's in court now. But think about this. Think about this. How bold is it for an institution to put that in a physician's performance evaluation? So things that go on a performance evaluation. Go ahead. Yes, ma'am.
That's a lawsuit.
No.
Yeah,
but see, they can speak like that. That's money talking. They can speak like that because you is a Black man, and that's money. That's power. They think that they can't nothing go over them.
That's what they think. And I'm gonna tell you, it is so bold. You like I said, I'm not here to necessarily discuss politics, but if you listen to the rhetoric regarding these politicians now who are in office, they're bold. They are very bold. The question is the question that I have for for those listening: why aren't we bold? Basically, Frederick Douglass gave us he gave this recommendation 160 something years ago on how we should address situations like this. When they're bold, we need to be bold back. And I certainly like to read his quote if the time permits. But I definitely wanted to let that soak in. In this day and age, they had the bold audacity to put that's one thing to say it, right? but I can prove this. I got a copy of that. It's a written statement that they put. And this wasn't the only thing that they put in my performance evaluation. There are a ton of things in there that explicitly reference my race. But let me tell you guys this, that was just the start. Really, it's them trying to cover that up that ended them in federal court. And that case is just in its early stages currently.
Let me say something to what Ms. Jacobs said. She said, that's money that's trying to stop you. And that's okay. They got money. And they're going to have to relinquish a lot of that. Because the only way you're going to stop people in this dispensation of time, I don't care who you are, you're going to have to hit them below the waist in their pocket.
That's right.
And if enough people hit them low, they're going to go.
And then they're going to hit them high.
Hold on one second.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hold on a second. I want to comment on that. Mr. Robinson, what you just said there is the key to advocacy, not only here in the States, but worldwide. If you so you have a guest on there, and I enjoyed everything that he stated. I got to get his name. I got to get your name, sir. But you mentioned that the works of the enemy and the devil, how he don't care about none of that. That's true. And I'm gonna tell you this: what he does care about in this country is money, right? If you even reflect on the civil rights movement, let me explain this. When you reflect on the civil rights movement, a lot of people think that it was them freedom speeches that represent the turning tides, but it wasn't. It was a money thing. Basically, folks stopped riding the bus; they was losing money, right?
Yeah.
We are an important part. We are an important part of this economy. Do you understand that? We are critical to this economy. When we start thinking with our dollars and not just our emotions, we don't have to go out there and march on the streets. Now, let me give you the example that I gave at when I was speaking earlier today at a church. Right? I basically said this: how many guys here on this line have ever been to Chinatown? Okay, I see some hands. There we go. So folks, right? Who the Chinese mayor of Chicago?
No,
ain't one. It was a trick question, right? Name me a Chinese presidential candidate. Ain't one, right? Yet they got a Chinatown, right? What they have learned is something that we got to learn. You don't need to put a face in office. You just need an agenda. When you have an agenda as a people, it doesn't matter who's in office. Because whether it's a Republican, whether it's a Democrat, a Green Party, they're going to have to answer to your agenda. We are so caught up in our community where we figure we need a face to it. But no, you don't. What you need is a plan. What you need is unity. The thing that we had that was back in the 60s was we had a monolithic identity. But it wasn't because we chose it. Really, we just didn't have a choice. We weren't invited into their things, right? So we had to stick together because all they could see was the color of our skin. But as soon as integration came, then they came choice, right? And a lot of our Black businesses and hospitals, they basically could not sustain, right? Because we start to take our wealth and give it right to them, right? And then that is the problem. And so it's always been a money thing. It's always been the same players. We just are deceived now. I'll pause because I think there were some comments.
You know what? I was just saying that today. I was with Steve earlier at the Baha'i Temple, and we was having conversation. I just said the exact same thing. I said pre-integration, Black folks was doing well. I mean well for the time, right? As it related to our familial numbers, as it related to our economic numbers, as it related to our education numbers. And for whatever reason, we just had this fascination with white being. Definitely. We just had this fascination with white being everything to us. So we had to be a part of whatever it was that they were. So I truly hate the fact that we had to integrate. And I really believe it's led us on a downward spiral. And regardless of all that they try to claim in terms of this being the most success we've ever been able to accrue, it's individualistic. You know what I mean? We've taken on the mindset of the dominant white society when we didn't have that prior. And that's what part of our biggest issue. All of us are competing with one another for limited resource that they've given us.
Right,
You know what I mean? Instead of being able to be, more collaborative so that we can get more.
Right.
And then, so that's one thing I wanted to say to what you were just saying. And the other thing I wanted to say is interesting about the hitting them in the pockets that Steve talked about, because another thing just happened more or less recently, because you're going to win your case. And then another thing that had just happened more recently, this is in politics, is that a aldermanic candidate was awarded $1.475 million through a settlement from 2023 from a current alderman and his Democratic committee. So this was in the 4th Ward. Attorney by the name of Ebony Lucas was running against, and it was an open seat because Sophia King wanted to run for mayor. So she was running and she was putting some heat on him. So the guy that's currently the alderman who ended up winning, him and his committee started putting out defamation against her, calling her a bad landlord, amongst other things. And so she went and sued him. And now this is going to be precedent in case law.
Wow.
So what's interesting about this, and I'm making that correlation to his lawsuit, is that once you start to hit these folks in the pocket, they're going to stop doing this bullshit. It's going to be some precedent.
Right. Right.
Well, Dr. O had her hand up. Dr. O, you want to say something?
Yes,
Hey,
y'all know. Hey, how y'all doing?
Hey.
All right.
Can y'all hear me? Y'all know I'm in my car. I'm always on the move. But I love this conversation because this is all this is what I'm talking about right here. I appreciate the gentleman, the doctor, talking about being bold enough. Yes, being bold. But my question to us is that we are living this every day. And if you ask the average Black person what's happening to them, we can articulate it. But where's the righteous outrage or the outrage for the injustices? Why is being bold such an uncommon thing to us? And then I take it back to the integration. But what integration has evolved into is the goal of assimilation and acceptance and approval and validation from a population that never, ever, ever, ever intended for us to be a part of this system. The economy, we were brought here as commodity, as an economic engine, or brought here, been here, whatever they did, however we got here. We were looked at as the economy, the economic engine for the economy, and a commodity. And what has happened over the years, if we can look at it, is just evolved in how they're doing it. Now we have taken on a form of hegemony, or however you want to say it, which the term has kind of shifted over the years, but where we now support and assist in our own demise because we've been kind of programmed or brainwashed, whatever, to believe that. So I'm told 3, 4, 5 times a week, why contend with what's going on? Why fight? Why contend? Why do this? Why that? Why can't we just all get along? But we can't just all get along if things are not working for us, things are not benefiting us. We are, somebody said, we are not just at the lowest totem pole of the wealth meter, but we're being drained every day. We pay higher rates for insurance. We pay higher rates for food. We pay higher rates for internet. We pay higher rates for everyday living expenses. And I didn't realize that till I was living in Little Italy, and all of my expenses were half than what they are now that I live further west. So these are the things that we see, we know, but we ignore it for whatever reason or whatever state of mind we in. So my question always goes back to this. If there's more good people in the world, why are evil people or injustices so bold and vigorously in our face? That's all I really want the answer to, because If there's more good people in the world, then the streets should be flooded with righteous indignation and righteous outrage.
I can answer that. There are more good people, because if the world didn't have more good, the world would have imploded upon itself many millennia ago. But the reason why we have the problems we have is the 1%. The 1% got more money than the rest of the 99%. That possibly could be some good in there. Money makes the world go round. Slavery was a form of money. And at the end of the day, that's all it was about.
I think it might be the mindset too, though. It might be the mindset.
I agree. I agree. But isn't part of being good and righteous is opposing unrighteousness, is opposing and being bold and brave enough to say, hey, this ain't right, but I'm gonna fight it. I might take a L doing it, but it won't be because I didn't say something. It won't be because I didn't do something. That's what I'm saying. Where is that at? We had a little bit more of that 2, 3, 4 decades ago. Now we've gotten to a place where I'm telling you, it's like I'm being advised to roll over every time.
Boxing.
And it's not from other people. It's from us. So I don't know. I'm trying to figure out how do we begin to think together as a collective and say, exactly, we built our own communities. We are self-sustainable. How do we get those other parties to say, hey, let's work together, let's integrate together, and be able to trust one another in doing it?
Hey, sister. What you've been seeing?
Doctor.
Hold on, Walter. Let Brother Raheem real quick.
Okay.
What you've been seeing for the last, I don't know, maybe 20, 30 years, especially since maybe the mid 80s, 90s, is you've been seeing the white establishment working. Their whole object was to break us. And so now what you see now is we're being broken like horses. You know, after a while, if you break them hundreds and hundreds of years and you tell Black people you're this or you're not this or you're that, sooner or later, they're going to start believing you.
Willie Lynch.
That's right. This is designed purposefully to break a people. They study this. This is science. They write books on this stuff. And so you see that they're winning. And it's sad, yes, you get to a point to where you're like, well, where are the brothers that are roaring, that sees what's going on in the community, but want to come together and fight for it? Why are people telling me, even mothers, fathers, uncles, to give up, to nothing's going to change? Because their spirit's been broken.
Right.
We've been broken as a people, and we're going to continue to be broken. That's why I keep saying, if we don't change what we constantly keep saying to our youngins, they don't want to listen anymore. Just like our father said to us, what this sister's talking about is what's going to keep happening. Then the kids that grow up now and become older, they're going to be saying the same thing to their children. Where are all the people that had this level of respect?
But
we have to change.
Can I say something?
Yeah. Hey, Walter.
What's up, Barry?
Hey, Walter. Hey, everyone. Good.
Can I see something?
Go ahead, Walter, real quick. Go ahead.
All right. I think that happened from the 1960s, where the nuclear family, through government, destroyed the family. That happened in the 1960s through that welfare program.
Yeah.
But let me say this. Brother Raheem was just saying that it's a mindset. But I want to say, if not, I don't know what the percentage is. DeAndre probably could find it. Dr. Rudis could find it. But the mindset is being deteriorated and changed because of drugs. We don't make drugs in our communities.
Drugs?
We don't make guns in our communities. Yep. So how does this stuff infiltrate, migrate, stimulate, stay in our communities. And this ain't nothing that happened last year, last decade, the decade before that. This has been going on since I was 50 years.
Yeah. But you tell the people, well, I'm not going to be fair to you. We're not going to give you the jobs. We're not going to allow you to prosper. So then you introduce alcohol and you introduce drugs to a neighborhood or people that you already tell is nothing. So now through desperation, you're going to have people do what? Either take it or they're going to start selling it. So why? To try to better their own lives. Well, you get decades and decades and decades of years of this, and it becomes what? A constant. It becomes a mindset. It becomes a brainwash. Right. Then sooner or later, this is the type of community you have. Right. You have men who are so angry that they'll kill each other over the smallest thing. And it don't even be about that. It be about just the frustration of having to come outside and look out and see that it's hopelessness. There's nobody to run to. There's no big brother you can go to and say, save me. There's none of that no more in the community. They're stripping our communities of the men who are supposed to be able to lead. They're destroying all our leaders. And then it's not even them anymore now because their plan is working. So we're doing it. It's the men's fault.
Okay.
Raheem? Raheem?
Go ahead.
Hey, everyone. Raheem, that's true. It's so frustrating, and there's all that energy, and I think people need to have people like Raheem and like the people on this call that people can turn to get support and to have us create a new kind of community. And right. we call that community Peace Front, where people help each other. And, you know, what's happening in the larger community, you know, Doctor, I'm sorry I didn't catch your name, but, you know, I think what you're pointing, you know, your situation with that Northwestern is the tip of the iceberg. But I think it's the tip of the iceberg, not just of Black folks, but the wider community too. There's so many deaths, so many problems from the medical, the pharmaceutical system, the food system. It's all fucked up. And we need the good people to come together to create something better. And we call that better. We call that better Peace Front. But we need to get our heads around that new kind of story of what life is about.
Well, I mean, what a story we're telling today. What do we have? We got 5 PhDs on this call right now. You know, and everybody from the hood, pretty well. You too, Barry. You from Harlem. So I mean, it is what it is. That's the hood.
I mean, it is true. When you get to the crux of the matter, yeah, we're speaking about racism and different separations and stuff. But in order for mankind to reach its fullest potential, we have to come together. It has to be black, white, yellow, and every other color coming together, because that's how we'll reach our fullest potential, because that's the way God wanted it to be. Learning sciences from each other. It's just that you have speed bumps and roadblocks, and racism is one of them. Racism and the future don't get along because the future believes in prosperity. Racism strips you of prosperity, which is the reason why you see what's going on now. It's like a tug of war thing. You have people that's really trying to hold on to the old America, and you see, yeah, they're dying off and things are changing, but new systems change. Knowledge change. You know, slavery doesn't look like it looked back then, but there's still slavery.
Oh, yeah.
We just don't, they hide it better.
Slavery changed to Jim Crow.
Right.
And Jim Crow changed to the institution.
To the institution.
That we have right now,
right,
which comes in multiple facets. I mean, just listen to what Dr. Rushing said. I can't believe well, let me say this to you first, Dr. Rushing. it's gonna be some heads rolling once they find out who sent that letter. Because I guarantee you, it didn't come from the highest to the highest up.
Mm-hmm.
It came from some intermediate person above you. And if they're still there, shame on them.
Mm.
And if they end up like they usually do with most things, oh well, their cop killed 5 black people, you know. We'll just send them over to another police station down in Florida. Yeah, Florida. He get him a job down there.
Yeah. If you think about that letter, though, they took it personal.
Yeah.
Because he was somebody that couldn't be bought. That's the most dangerous man you could ever come across, is a man that can't be bought. So they took that personal. They looked at that like the uppity Negro.
Of course.
Who do you think you are to look for truth when we're telling you you got to be a little bit crooked to make it in our world?
Take your grits,
right?
Eat them,
right?
And get in your corner.
Exactly. And so they got outside of their body.
We're giving you a little more grits than you than the others.
Right.
I want to say, but you're just smart. That's the problem. You're just smart, you know.
Hey, Dr. Rush.
There are a lot of smart people. Yeah. There are a lot of smart people that won't fall for this crap, you know. And
all the PhDs on here.
Come on, flop with it.
I did want to comment on a few things. I've been listening, and I think Dr. O had a very important question. And, you know, with a lot of these questions, I can't pretend to know the exact remedy for, right? Obviously, I think we recognize that there are a lot of variables at play. So, for example, it seems as if Dr. O was really asking, why are we so complacent, given that all of this stuff is coming on? And what is it that will be the catalyst to get us to do something about it? And what she's really saying is if there's so many good people, okay, why doesn't the presence of good people translate into good things? Now, on the one hand, I hope I've summarized that correctly. On the one hand, there are two things. Okay, she gave me the thumbs up, which means I summarized it correctly. There are a couple of things at play, right? The first thing is that complacency comes with that's sometimes a byproduct of progress too. We've bought into a message of individualism, right? Individualism works perhaps for some people, but for most cultures, it doesn't. Collectivism works a lot better for our community, especially since we only make up, around 13-14% of the population. Individualism in its purest form, in the absence of other variables like racism, it probably could be a good thing in America, right? But when you have systems in place that are designed to get what they're designed to get, you're going to have a problem with that. The other thing that I've noticed, especially coming into the campaign season, and I'm telling you this anecdotally, meaning this is something that I've experienced. And let me explain why I feel this way. So I used to do home visits leading up into the Trump presidency. I went into homes all across the Midwest. I'm talking about rural shacks where folks who are way below the poverty line, and they didn't look like me, okay? And I'm talking about wealthy Black folks. I'm talking about poor white folks. I've been and I've talked to them, and it both scared me and it encouraged me at the same time. The sad truth is this. If you really think about it, COVID showed us that okay, you can't really have an enclave over here that's unaffected by something that goes on over there. We have right now, what we see is a lot of identity politics, right? That tell us that, hey, you stay on this side, you stay on this side. Those lines get a bit blurred, though, when you really think about it. And Dr. King, he gave a couple of messages on this inclusivity and on this connectivity. Now, a lot of people thought that he was just chasing dreams, but I think he understood on the fundamental level that there is no progress unless we each realize how our fates are mutually connected. And COVID brought that out. Rich people died from COVID. Poor people died from COVID. Certain things, especially as our populations get dense, it reminds us that no, we're connected. One more thing that led up to, leading up to the Trump election and the change of an administration, I found something remarkably different about the messages that we're even preaching in our congregations. I've seen I've heard some things that shocked me. Basically, they're preaching nowadays that it's not okay to help people. They call that a social gospel. And back in the during the civil rights movement, we had to help people because that's the only way folks were getting through. So when you have progress like individualism, folks are making more money and we have more access to resources than ever before, right? So we have individualism, capitalism, but then we also, and those yield complacency. And then you also have these messages that makes it uncool to help people. I've heard messages saying, no, pray about it, let God deal with it. That's the dumb. Now I'm Christian, right? I believe in God, but that's the dumbest thing I ever heard. You have agency as a person. You have to use that agency. You should make that agency go in the direction of making someone else's life better. I'm going to pause there because I think there are some more comments. Yeah. But I just wanted to say that there are ethics as a country and as a world is changing.
Can I say from the young man perspective that, I ain't abandoned the church. I like going to church. You know what I mean? One of the pastors would always say, man, you can go to the Lord's house and give him some praise from time to time. I receive it, but I am more spiritual than religious. I believe in history, we lost more people in the name of religion than we have anything else. But I want to say that
you got it.
One of the things about religion that strikes me is that for all the people that are in church, saying that they are moving in a God-like manner, if you will, especially because they going and praising, I never see them out on the streets with me. Right. I feel like I'm doing more of the Lord's work than they are because I'm actually in the field. Right.
You got it.
God wasn't behind the walls of the church saying that's what a covenant was. Right. That was the people. And so I'm saying, and I prefaced it by saying I'm a young man with that mentality because then now the question be, well, all the kids ain't in church. Right. What you think they ain't in church for? Because they are being sold a bill of goods that ain't worth anything. You know what I mean? Especially again, when I'm out in the field, I don't see the same people out there with me.
That's right. So that was one of my things, Dr. Dre. Most of y'all know, I have a church or a spiritual background, or a religious background of being in the church, but I'm a spiritual person. One of my things is similar to what the doctor was saying. The message, the church was one of the key things in doing movement making, right? But it was a different message. It was a different message. It was a part of your spiritual journey to be a part of something that's in the streets, that's saying what's unrighteous and what's unjust to people. It used to be a part of that. It's not a part of that anymore. Now, it is what it is. I go into different ministries or different churches or whatever you want to call it, and it's more about controlling the population, people believing and following blindly without asking questions. It's also about a preference based on the leadership that's in leadership, that's leading the people. So again, it goes back to my very question: is if we are some of the quote unquote most spiritual people. We got 10 churches in a 2-block radius, and that's being gracious. Those churches, I'm with you. They should be empty. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry. They should be empty.
Go ahead, Diana.
Sure. I thank you. Sorry I joined late, and I've been listening, and I find some really great thoughts at the table today. But I want to just express something about the church. I know what you folks are talking about. You know, where's the church at? So I'm a Christian, right? Been so since, I guess, 2003, right? In these last 5 years, no, 10 years ago, I started coming out to the community because before then I worked lots and lots of hours. I worked very hard, always was on it, you know, but I did also go to church. I was always on that too. But when I had my accident and I got let go from my job,
Can
and
you
I
give me
stayed home.
that stitchy cord? Stop calling me in here for stuff that's already in your room.
Wait a minute.
I'm sorry. Anyway, I came out of my house and I started dealing, you know, talking with my neighbors and got more involved in the community and still went to church. And I started to go to the church around my house because before then I'd been at Moody Church for years. I started coming out into my own community and getting to know my own pastors and the churches around me. Formed some nice relationships, but I'm telling you, I'm still asking people at the church, come out. The body of Christ, you're supposed to be the hands and feet. Come out. Come out of the church. And all you can do is invite your brothers and sisters out, right? Because for a while I was a little bit hurt about it, you know? But I realized, you know, we all have a purpose. Whether you're a believer or not, you know, you got to know you have a purpose in life. And so my purpose is not to, you know, drag people out of the church. My purpose is to encourage them to come out and join me in the street, right? I hear some really intelligent remarks and amazing statements, and we see what the problem. I know this group is touched base on some of the deep problems that we're not being addressed because we do need to collectively come together. There's power in numbers, but you got to do that. I have told leadership in my own community, you know, everybody says Donald Trump is using Hitler's playbook. Why aren't we using Martin Luther King's playbook? The man beat back, you know, this society and established civil rights with the help of, you know, the church and masses of other people of all different races came together to support that movement. That's what made the change. And if we get tired of asking the church to come out, or if we don't ask the church at all to come out, shame on us. And yes, you can look around you and say, look, I got 10 churches on this block, and I don't see any of them coming out. At least reach out to your neighbor. My gosh, I'm a breath away from standing outside of the church at the corner end of my block with a sign on Sunday that says, who is your neighbor? You know, get out here. But you can call it out. You can ask for them to come, but God's got to commit their heart. And as for prayer, you know, God says yes, he says no, and he says not yet. I'm a strong believer in prayer. I've seen it over and over. So I just would like to encourage people, don't give up on that. Because when our resources run out, God hasn't even started to use his. They are never ending. When you believe that, then you really have some power.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Diana.
I like that.
I like it. Can I comment on that? Because I think that was a pretty important point. But I really like the comment that led to that too from Dr. O as well. Let's just put it out there. Now, the churches today are not the churches we grew up in. Okay, these institutions now are preaching messages about blessings and not about people. They're building a message of kingdom building that has nothing to do with building people. And to be completely honest with you, it's actually counter and contradictory to many of the passages, whether you believe it or not, what that Jesus actually preached. So if we think about it, you know, there's so I was speaking just at a church today, and you're right, there is a disconnect sometimes. It's a disconnect because people, there are different messages being preached now. You got this message now that's basically saying, pray about it without doing anything. That doesn't work, and it's not actually biblical either. Take a look at this. I'm gonna give you an example. Just so if you look at Matthew, it's a book in the Bible, and I know everybody on here is not Christian or whatnot, but since it's Sunday, let me just share this with you. Matthew 25, 25th chapter, verse 40. I'm going to read fast because I want to get to a really quick point. It says, and the king shall answer and say unto them, verily I say unto you, inasmuch as ye have done it unto one of the least of these my brethren, you've done it unto me.
Amen.
Then shall he say also unto them on the left hand, depart from me, ye cursed, into everlasting fire, prepared for the devil and his angels. And I'm going to read 42. It says, for I was hungry, and ye gave me no meat. I was thirsty, and ye gave me no drink. I was a stranger, and ye took me not in. Naked, and ye clothed me not. Sick, and in prison, and ye visited me not. Then they shall answer him, saying, Lord, when saw we thee hungry, thirsty, stranger, naked, sick, or in prison, and did not minister unto thee? And I'm going to end at verse 45. It says, then he shall answer them, saying, inasmuch as you did it to one of the least of these, you did it unto me. Let me give you the context. That was a passage where Jesus is describing a scene at the end of times. Whether you believe it or not, that's irrelevant. The important thing is that Jesus, that's a main figure in the Bible, basically speaks of a time where he's saying that you're going to be judged by how you treat other people, right? Where do you hear that nowadays? You got mega, they're not preaching that gospel that Jesus preached. They're preaching a gospel, but it ain't the one that he preached. They're preaching a gospel of capitalism. Pray, give me your offering, and God's going to bless you. And that is the death of our community. First of all, they don't preach what it actually says about sacrifice, collectivism. Luke called Jesus an activist, right? If you think about it. And this isn't about, I'm not trying to push a religious view. I obviously respect folks' religious views. What I'm saying is that in an age of capitalism, one of the quiet changes that have just gone over us is this new sort of ethics and new sort of values that baffles me. So it's a value that says only focus on you. And when you do that, there's nothing but destruction can come from that. And it's also counter to the actual stories and passages in the Bible that are actually preached. And I'll just I'm going to leave that alone. But I wanted to throw that in there to say, not even the preachers are preaching what's in the Bible. They've turned this thing into, so a church gets money because they should provide a service to the public. Okay. Now these churches are these pastors that have $1 million mansions, and I'm not saying anything wrong with it. I'm just saying it's different.
Let me say this.
You know, these churches are basically corporations. They're basically corporations now.
Let me say this.
And I'll leave it at that.
What was that phrase? Social, people stay alone, don't help other people. What was that phrase, Dr. Rush?
Yeah, so what they've dubbed it is the social gospel. And if you just put it in YouTube, you'll get a lot of big high-profile preachers that are preaching, don't help people. And I'm like, that's what the Bible is all about.
May I comment?
Helping people.
Let me say this to you.
I'd like to comment.
Yes. Hold on 1 second, Diana. Let me say this. This is nothing new. 30 years ago,
you got it.
I went to the Million Man March. Came back. Day of
I remember
Atonement. I met a guy named Butch Campbell. Butch created a group called the Brotherhood of Black Men. Well, we believed in Psalms 133, verse 3. Behold how good it is for brethren to dwell together in unity. So I said to Butch, in order for us to build this army of brethren to go out here into the vineyards, as DeAndre said, to help people in community, I said, why not go to the churches? We got plenty of them. If we cannot find a man of goodwill in those churches
let's burn it down. Because there should be at least one man of goodwill in a church. And guess what? We didn't get him.
God burned down Sodom and Gomorrah looking for one good man. So I wouldn't, I wouldn't be surprised if that was your result. I'd like to just share with, I'd like to share something. So I hear you. I'd like to recommend a book if anybody's interested. It's called The Hole in the Gospel, and it talks about the social gospel. It talks about church, the laity sitting in the church, and taking it all in. Do you know that only 10% of every church membership actually contributes to the church? So there's people going to the church, getting fed, and they don't give anyway. So and I'm not making any special comment, it's just an observation. Only 10% of the people in any given church actually contribute to the welfare of the church, right?
Can I say one more thing? Can I say?
Let me just finish. So I want to recommend this because it does, the book, The Hole in the Gospel, is very relevant to what we're talking about. And I just would like to let you folks know that not every church, and I'm sure you're all aware of it, not every church is preaching this scandal that we're all talking about. There are some good churches, and the Bible does direct us to examine, know what the church is preaching, and know what the church is doing with the money that you contribute. That's our individual responsibility. Make sure that we're giving someplace that is reputable and actually working for the people. So a lot of these little churches that we see up in our community, if they're not coming out into your community, I don't like to make this statement. I'm not judging, but in some cases, those pastors in those churches and in the big ones are just enriching their own pockets. That's their income, and they're not interested in the surrounding area of the community where they're actually planted, and they should be. And that is the scandal. Okay, Anthony.
I really appreciate that comment. And I want to say two things to it. The first is that someone mentioned just a moment ago that I guess someone would probably argue that, well, they aren't being supported financially because there might not be much reason to now. The Bible says that, hey, we're the salt of the earth, right? Now, meaning people will support you if you can show them that you see them, right? Why would a community support a church that doesn't support the community, right? Now, I say that, and I don't want to go on a rant, because I wanted to highlight a good church that's out there. So now a lot of them are smaller. A lot of them don't get a lot of good press, but I know one. One is a New Grace Kingdom. It's off of Pulaski. It's a small church by Dr. I think his name is Walter Hawkins or whatnot. They got food pantries. They're helping folks, right? They're doing good things. And in fact, we're doing a feature on one of my websites called caringmatters365.com. Where we're featuring them, and you can check it out. I'll drop it in the link. But one of the organizations that I'm that chairing are doing just what the previous caller just suggested. We're highlighting folks who are doing good. You can find it all on the news. Folks who are doing, not a great job. But I think it is a good idea to highlight those that are doing well. And so, but I think a big part of that is, you have to support what supports you, right? Basically, a church, you get tax breaks, right? You get charitable contributions, right? You got to do something with it beyond feeding the folks in the pulpit. You got to feed the community. You have to do something. You have to give back. And I'll leave it at that. And I'll drop the link to that website also in the chat as well.
Okay.
Well, I appreciate you
Doctor.
I'm sorry. I appreciate you sharing that, because that's to the point that I was going to make. If you really look at scripture, I served as an ordained minister for 20 years. And if you look at the scripture, you study the scripture, the structure of how, quote unquote, we do church is not as intended. If you base it on biblical references, the church began in the streets. The church began in the bars. The church begins with the whores. The church begins with those that was outcast. But now we have this I forgot that I was in the street before I got saved. So now I'm goody two shoe and I'm radiating all of this. So I can't go in the street. I can't listen to the blues. I can't do this. No. Let's look at the original structure of what the church was made for. It was never, ever, ever made to be behind four walls, ever.
Tell me about it.
It says when you say if you reap the carnal things, they supposed to reap the carnal things, but because you're not sowing into the community, you can't reap it. The community can't pour back in because you ain't gave the community nothing. Some people, I know churches all over the West Side where people live out south, people live in the south suburbs, people don't even live in the community. They commute in and out of the community and lock their doors and never serve the community.
Right?
How does that supposed to work? How is that in line with the mission and vision that quote unquote Christ gave to the church? So those are the things that had me reevaluate my leadership and how I represent myself in God. I know what I was called to do, right? And if I'm called to follow Christ, baby, you can't take bites and bits of it and say I'm doing this and not that. It's the whole or not. It say eat the whole roll if we study scripture. But I don't go down there. I ain't gonna go down that road. But I'm just saying we have a duty to our people. We have a duty to our communities first. That's Christ-like.
All right.
Couldn't agree.
Someone else?
Hello,
Wanted to say
doctor.
one thing. Heard an amazing sermon, and if I can find it, because I did have it on CD, and it's just for the list because this is what we're talking about. It's the topic, and I'm not trying to impose any, religion or belief on anyone. But the most amazing sermon was on the the Good Samaritan. And I really do want to locate that and find it. I believe that those folks on this call will just truly appreciate it because it'll help us even look at, who is my neighbor? Who is my neighbor? Because it's so much bigger, right? The Lord gave us such a commission. And here we are just all bound up in ourselves, with all the mayhem that's going on. I would say, go back, lean back on that scripture, because it tells the truth. It tells the truth about how to address and how to bring together and how to become whole. And I think that's what we're talking about. How do we become unified? How do we become whole? How do we be kind to one another? Because that, love conquers a multitude of sins, and it's going to take some kind of love to overcome this mayhem that's going on in our country. It means that people have to put aside that individuality and say, mankind is mankind. The very thought of coming against that, that we have to eat each other alive in order to advance, our pockets, our nest egg. In order to do that, I have to, cut someone else's throat. I have to steal from the widow and the orphan. Good gosh. If a message of love can't overcome thoughts and motives like that, then I don't know.
I just want to
I suggest we find out.
I was gonna say real quick. I ain't gonna lie. I remember, and it's part of the reason I got turned off by the church when I ran for office the first time, and I lived around the corner from a church, and I got invited. And look, I took "Come as You Are" to be a serious thing, and nobody told me I was speaking or anything like that. So I rolled out the bed, I threw some joggers on, and I went to church. You know what I'm saying? Boy, them people talk about me like a dog. They call Steve, hey, your man's in here, he running for office. He coming here wearing jogging pants. Oh yeah, I'm good. Y'all ain't gonna catch me in church no more. My thing was, I'm 20-something years old. I want to represent my community in a positive way. And instead of pulling me to the side as an elder to be like, listen, we see what you're trying to do, but if you're going to do it in this setting, you got to come like this. Give me a lesson. Instead, you discourage me. You turned me off for wanting to be there. Now imagine how many other kids are walking the streets just like that.
Right.
And I'm still in community though, but man, look. So I'm just saying.
No, it's part of what they indoctrinate, you know? It is.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Hey,
powerful. That is
Not
powerful.
being able to pull me to the side though.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Hey,
You know, if I
doctor.
was you, I would write to the pastor of that church. That is powerful. And something like that is even in the sermon that I talk about. Yeah.
It's over with.
That's wrong, you know? Because remember, the Good Samaritan, he stopped at the roadside. The man was blind. The man was naked and dying. And the Good Samaritan, he went up to him anyway, while the rabbi and the priest crossed the road. What a slap in the face for them to treat you that way. I hope that they set the heart.
That was taught really early with kids, because when I was little and we would be out playing with the kids on Sunday, and then my mom would say, "Hey, come on, we gotta go to church." And then the kids didn't hear that, and then they were like, "Where you going?" And it was like, "We're getting ready to go to church." They said, "But you don't have your Easter clothes on."
Right.
Well, we were Catholic, and when Catholics, they say, "Come as you are, come as you is."
Right.
I seen the priests in there with shorts on under and Birkenstocks on. So, I mean, it kind of relaxes the situation so you could focus on what you're there for.
Right.
But, you know, it was an indoctrinated scenario for a lot of churches. I ain't gonna just say black churches, I'm gonna say churches.
Yeah.
Or places of worship.
Where you got to
Places of worship.
dress up. Yeah.
Right, to impress.
And Jesus was a poor
But
man.
can I say this?
Robe, you feel
He
me?
came with a robe and sandals.
Came with a robe and sandals on.
And you
And I
worried
can't
about
wear joggers. Man, y'all
But
play
can
too
I-
much, man.
Can I say this?
Y'all play too much.
Go ahead, Ms. Jacobs.
Okay, I read this from a book or something. It's about Jesus. We don't know who we turning away. Now, this lady was looking for Jesus, and she had her house. She cleaned up her house. She had food and everything. She was looking for Jesus. This man came by her house all raggedy and dirty. She turned him away. She said, "You can't come in my house because I'm looking for Jesus." But that was Jesus. So you never know who you turning away.
Right, right.
I don't think most people will
Right.
recognize Jesus. if he
Hey,
was walking.
doctor.
Yes, sir.
I'm just wondering, is there some cures for all different cancers?
All of us over there.
Yes, sir. I can address that. The short answer is yes, there are. Many cancers are curable, treatable, and preventable, but there are a whole lot more that are not. Basically, if you think about what a cancer is, it's basically, it's really simple, actually. It's basically, it's cellular growth gone wild that occurs because of mutations, right? Mutations in your genetic material occur all the time, but we have systems and mechanisms in place to correct it at some frequency, depending on what sort of environmental challenge we are exposed to. The rate of mutations exceeds our body's ability to repair it, and then you get a rogue cell that starts dividing. To ask, is there a cure for cancer? It's a loaded question, because there isn't just one cancer. There are a lot of different cancers. But to simply put, the short answer is yes. We do have good treatments. There are things that make it really preventable. To give you one example, cervical cancer. 20 years ago, it was killing all sorts of folks. Pretty much, we're on it's probably pretty rare to die from it, because we have really good screening programs for it.
You think what they're making like a lot of money from it?
From what?
Cancer.
So if you're asking the underlying question, is medicine profitable? Yes, profitable. But if you're also asking the question, are there cures? Yeah, they are. There. So let me ask this: a thing can be profitable, okay, and beneficial at the same time, right? I think the real problem when you get into questions like that is, what's our end goal? when money is the end goal of any endeavor, I mean, you basically are opening the door for corruption, misuse, injustice, right? If we as a society recognize the true role of money, money should be an avenue, not an end goal. It should be a means, not the end, right? Our ethics in our society degrade when we put money on the end goal. Like going back to sort of my situation, there's a federal case, right? Obviously, we know what Tyler Perry said about lawyers. He called them light lawyers, right? I'm in that profession too. I'm a novice. I'm in school. But what I always tell my colleagues in coming is this: if you make money your end goal, you're going to betray your clients. You're going to betray society. You're going to betray your profession. Some of them do, and they fall into that rabbit hole. Money is just a tool. It is not an end goal. In any system built purely on money, it's going to fall. So even when you think of capitalism, right? There's nothing necessarily wrong with capitalism as long as you view it as a tool. But when you start making it the end goal, then you get companies that will sacrifice good data at the expense of good people.
Right.
Okay. So it's a very good conversation today, y'all. I mean, we starting to roll up on that hour. Yeah. But what I would like to do is, and invite you back, Raheem.
Okay.
If you can make it, because we got to dive into this a little more.
Right.
And definitely, Dr. Rushing, we definitely want you back. We'll probably bring you in through the yard and bring you in through the back room and get a little bit more exposure that way. And dive into as much as you feel you can dive into this with us.
Absolutely.
And enlighten, direct, and somehow mitigate this problem that we're having in the medical field, because this stuff done ran rampant, man. I see it every day, and I'm like, wow. Black people just can't, or I ain't gonna just say black people, a lot poor people, they're just getting drugged through the coals, and then when you seen it and tried to expose it, they told you shut your mouth, right?
Basically,
you're the bad guy. You're the problem.
Right. You're absolutely
you're the problem.
Right.
What are we, like a bunch of like cattle?
You got it. But can I share one thing in closing? If the time is, Mr. Robinson, I want to read you something from Frederick Douglass. I think this is important, and then I'm just not gonna say anything else. And I kind of want to echo what Dr. O was saying. Sometimes you got to take a blow. Sometimes you got to take a hit. But it's important in whatever you do to stand, because if you don't stand for something, you're gonna fall for anything. Let me say this. This is Frederick Douglass. He writes this I think it was around 1857 or so. He says, "Power concedes nothing without a demand. It never did, and it never will. Find out just what any people will quietly submit to, and you have found out the exact measure of injustice and wrong which will be imposed upon them. And these will continue till they are resisted," check this out, "with either words," that's lawsuits, "or blows." This is Frederick Douglass. Hold on, he says.
Can I?
Hold on 1 second.
Can I have that?
I'll put that in the chat group too. It says, "or with both." But this is the part that I like, the last sentence of his quote. He says, "The limits of tyrants are prescribed by the endurance of those whom they oppress." In other words, all of those fancy words just translates into this. It's going to continue to be the same unless you stand up. Now, Dr. O presented a question. She presented a question. She said, well, when are people going to stand up? And then I'm going to say this. We standing right now, right? We all of us in this group are making a stand. And obviously, I got to do a shameless plug to equalrighttodream.com. It's in the chat box, because I want to show you guys how we're standing up, how we're making a demand. And yes, to that caller, I will share that quote in the. I'll try to type it in the chat as well. And thank you so much for having me today.
We appreciate you. We're gonna get you back on again. We'll talk about it. But I want to say the problem with the 99%, the reason why we don't have we got good people and they don't stand up, it's based on fear and greed. There ain't enough greed for them, and there's too much fear for them.
I like the statement, that quote that, you know, regarding money being not the goal, but a tool, you know, not the end, but the tool. And I think if we get more of that perspective, we'll have a healthier relationship with it, you know.
I think you're absolutely.
Absolutely. All right, who do we have? Walter, you got anything in conclusion?
Well, money is the root of all evil.
The love of money.
Or the love of it.
The love of it.
Okay. Ms. J, you got anything in conclusion?
You standing on it. I love it. And whatever you need from me, I'm standing with you.
Amen. I'm right there with you. You can count me in. Mr. Diana.
Count me in.
Diana? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Check out my website.
Okay, Barry. Hold on, Barry. You got anything in conclusion?
Barry or Steve, you send me those things that the doctor has, please, because I don't have the chat.
Barry, get that for me if you don't mind, Barry.
Please, pretty please, guys.
Let me see whether I can copy it.
All right, let me go to the next person. Dr. O, anything in conclusion?
Hey, the Frederick Douglass quote, y'all know I live by it. I love that quote. That's one of my favorites. And I want to reiterate for us to just take that quote and break it down piece by piece for ourselves. And so it's not just somebody saying it to us. We internalize it and understand what it means for each of us. So I love this conversation.
Man.
I'm down. Just call me. Y'all know.
All right. Ella, you have anything? Oh, go ahead, Barry. Barry.
Yeah. So, Dr. Russian, is that your name? Russian or Rush?
That's my name. That's my name, Marcus Rushing. And the website's the same, marcusrushingmd.com.
And can you put that in? Can you put that in the chat?
W chat.
Yeah, and Steve, I can't copy. I'm on my phone, and it's not allowing me to copy the chat. Diana. So
well, how about this? Why don't I text that information to? Why don't I text that information?
No, I'm gonna text it right now.
Mr. Robinson.
I'm gonna send it to Diana right now on the game.
Well, send it to me too.
Okay.
If you can, hey, DeAndre, if you can save the whole chat.
No, I ain't on the Zoom though. But I'm finna I have found it.
Hey, DeAndre.
She said, "Hey, DeAndre."
Hey, Diana, how are y'all?
I'm good. Great conversation tonight.
Ella, you have anything in conclusion? We'll be back.
I wanted
I have a whole lot of comments to make, but we out of time. But I just want to make like 3 points. Number one, we have plenty of mega churches out here can do a world of good for our community if they produce soldiers to come out and help us. We have too much sitting up in these churches doing nothing but praising the Lord, going with the pastor and all this other crap. That's my first point. My second point is that, we've always lived a life where there's much racism. We've had everything thrown at us, including the kitchen sink, but we survive. Okay. And the reason why it's so open now is because our president gave racism validation with the Proud Boys and all these other Ku Klux Klan like people. He validated that, and they just went apeshit wild with the power he gave them. You know, so I'm distressed because it's out there, but that does not mean I'm gonna give up because we've survived worse, and we're gonna continue to survive. It looks like it's minute a little bit now, but that's okay. It's slowly building. And we're going to reach that point where we say enough is enough, and we're going to come out in numbers, and we're going to defeat that demon.
We need to get our flips together.
That's it.
Yeah.
So that's all I have to say.
Okay.
You ready to get your gun?
Hey.
What Tiny at?
That's what you got. What type of time you need to be on?
I'm here.
Like the sisters that were big pros. They was ready.
How you say
Okay,
Ian?
Yeah, I'm here.
Go ahead, Tiny. You got anything in conclusion?
Yeah, I just always remember it is a God, and God either lets it happen or he makes it happen. Trump ain't nothing but a sign of the times. It's a declining institution. So just if you believe, you believe. If you don't, you don't. But if you believe, you know everything's gonna turn out all right.
Absolutely.
I receive it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We got another iPhone. We got another phone, 286646. If you got anything, I don't know who they are, but go ahead, chime in if you like.
And Steve, I'd like to conclude too.
Okay, go ahead, Barry.
This was a terrific conversation. Really enjoyed it. Thank you all. And there was calls for good people to do something. Well, I think what's happened is the Proud Boys and Trump and the rest of them have kicked the sleeping giant, which is the vast number of people. And we need each other. We need good people to support each other. And there's vast opportunity right now. The next
You broke up.
Yeah.
Barry.
Are we on, Steve? Oh, okay.
Barry, where are you?
Barry, what happened? You dropped.
Barry.
I think his phone might have died.
Yeah, might have, but
He said he wasn't on the computer.
No, I still see him, so he's probably something's going on. Barry? Okay. Well, we're going to conclude, y'all. It's been a long day, hot day. The name of the show was Hotter Than July, but we should have called it the Hot Mic segment because it was hot on the mic. But we like to be solution oriented because, we got a lot of good, like-minded people. Like I said, we have at least 4 PhDs and an MD today, on. And we like to use our progressive, positive, promoting good ideas to do something better than just talking about it. As Ms. Jacobs says, we got to be about it. We ain't new to it, we true to it.
Oh, that was it? That was everybody went all the way around?
Yep. And I want to thank everybody for coming on. So DeAndre, go ahead, Raheem. I'm sorry.
I just want to say that this is a gift for me. I truly appreciate being able to have the opportunity to talk to like-minded people. There was a time where I was losing a little bit of faith, you know what I mean? Because I'd walk the neighborhoods and it seemed like I couldn't find anybody that wanted to help or soldier up or wanted to be an example. And then, but God is always good. And so I met this brother right here, DeAndre, and then you and a bunch of other brothers. And now I'm sitting on the podcast and listening to people talk about change.
Right.
You know what I mean? And actually wanting to do something about it. And so that's a blessing in itself. So I appreciate that from everybody.
Yeah.
It's all about to start.
So I wanted to say this. As I've been saying for a long time, I was going to shift and really hone in on my background, which is business and psychology. And so, we continuing to do that. So one of the first things that I'm doing is launching a new series. I call it Brunch About Business every fourth Thursday of the month, where we can bring people together at my space at 5044 West Madison so that we can have brunch and we can talk about business. So I got some folks for the financial industry coming out to talk about not only just insurance, need to have it and blah, 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 but also the business behind it. Hopefully that'll be instrumental in some folks' lives as they go out and try to figure out how to put some more money in their pocket. But we're going to be doing that every fourth Thursday. And the first one is this Thursday. Also, my birthday coming up, 6/24. I'll be 38. You know what I'm saying? 38 special. I got one of those in the arsenal too. Yeah, I'll lay something down real quick.
You and your
Yeah, me and my twin. You know what I mean? But he ain't got as many guns as I got though. But I'm just saying, we talking revolution. You gotta have some guns, man. They ain't gotta be healthy. You know what I'm saying? So we still working on the health part, but we got all that. Either way, but I definitely want to bring up the brunch thing, my birthday thing. And starting in July, from July to October, every Saturday we have programming. I call it the Moving Beyond Academics program. And it's programming every Saturday from July to October that focuses on a different part of either business or social development. So we're gonna start out with credit, all the way up to credit, how to remove things off your report. We also got one of my young boys leading that, another one of my young boys leading the entrepreneurship, branding, business development for other young people, but also adults. Another one of my young ladies, she's doing business coaching, how to take your business further. I'm gonna do investing, and then I'm gonna do psychological capital, developing your psychological resource to experience hope, self-efficacy, resiliency, and optimism. So we got programming a whole summer and doing a whole bunch of other cool stuff. So check me out, 5044 West Madison. Come on through. Oh, the brunch is Thursday, 1 to 3. So come on through, y'all. But other than that, we're going to wrap this thing up. I always like to say in closing, we got open seats. They didn't want to give us a table, so we created our own. We got open seats, and we welcome y'all home. Thank y'all for allowing us to welcome you to Northwest Austin Council. Y'all have a good night.
Good night, y'all. Don't forget, we doing our smokehouse in the 40 blocks down on the south end right now. We're going to ramp it up. Talk to y'all.
Everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Prayer without action is dead, right?
Right.
You're right.
That's right.
Okay.
Good night,
Night,
all.
Miss Jacobs.
Good night, everyone.
All right, y'all. We're going to tighten this one up on the next go round. Okay? Later.